This is the Street Professor, Skookum1. This isn't a vlog about BC politics, but on my way to the gym, which is right over there, I'm almost there now, and before I tune my brain up to go in and try and train, but it's going to be hard, I heard Lyin Brian, the human slime, on CBC eulogizing about George Herbert Walker Bush. And, oh yeah, you know, Mr. Danny Boy with Reagan, you know, who's the greatest president? I gotta ask there, Brian. Didn't you say Ronnie was? What are you gonna say when George Younger dies? Right, so keep it up with the superlatives of my basso voice friend and sing us some more Irish with the ghost of Reagan. But, you know, there were two things he said that I remarked upon. The first was that he said that he found George was really funny because he told this long story about how at the first G20 or G8 or whatever, G20 I think it was, they were at together, they sat across the table. And to everything that was being said by anybody, including his not a humble self, Lyin Brian Mulroney, for whom we owe a great debt, or shall we say of a certain kind, to Mr. Mulroney, which perhaps will get paid back someday. And I don't mean in a nice way, because I believe him to be a great criminal in Canadian history, among many others. But that's a longer story. But that he said that George the First, as I call him, of America, well, no, maybe the third, I'm not sure how many Georges have been president. Then he said he was constantly taking notes. Yeah, well, you know, given that the guy was the head of the CIA when he was appointed vice president, which was why he was not electable. This is a guy who knows how to take steno. And he was probably recording more than just what was being said, but also tone of voice, other descriptions, all at once. So, you know, George Herbert Walker Bush was an intelligent genius, like a certain Vladimir Putin is. Okay, this is the kind of people that we're talking about here. He's not an ordinary man. He was never an ordinary man. He was never an ordinary president, you know. He was the CIA, having taken control of the United States. So, you know, we owe for him the war, oh, never mind. I won't get into everything of the wars and everything in Georgia and the finances and the 1,000 points of light and all that bullshit, you know. But also, other than that, about, you know, him, of course he's taken notes. And what else was he taking in those notes? But then he said that the joke of the whole story was that the president of Iceland went on and on and on and on and on and on and on until the chairman sort of hustled things shut for coffee, you know. But then George makes some kind of quip to Brian, you know, about, hey, Brian, you know, I learned a major rule of a diplomatic reality. You know, he said, the smaller the nation, the longer the speeches. Yeah, well, when you're Iceland, you got a lot of grievances against the major powers. And there's Mulroney making light of it. Okay, that's the attitude that they have, right? Same as when Harper made light of the fisticuffs in the Mexican Senate during the election crisis last time around, or couple of times ago in 2006. And Harper makes, oh, it shows vibrant democracy or some other stupid comment. And here's Mr. Robocalls. So anyways, I'm done. Those are some observations on Brian Mulroney's blather and spin, even at a eulogy, right? For one of maybe the most notorious men in history, which he sends up 50 to 100 years and now will be seen as one of the greatest presidents of all time, of the greatest republic that's ever been on the face of the earth. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, there ain't another 50 to 100 years in that republic. God help us if there's 5. Okay? That's how we feel up here on the north side of the boundary, right next to you guys. So, and 50 to 100 years for the human species, ooh, that's kind of cutting it dicey, not in the numbers we are now. All states shall fall in coming decades, all, including the United States. Which is why I hope people around here had the common sense to vote for PR, so we have half a chance of saving our asses and not being overrun by the wrong kind of settlement. But we don't have a choice in the long run. So I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I'm just really realistic, right? And I just had to laugh when I listened to Brian Mulroney, the man who should have gone to jail in the Airbus Affair, if Harper hadn't appointed who became Governor General Johnson to chair the Airbus Inquiry, specifically written under terms of reference that excluded other Tories from investigation, including Harper himself. Young Turks, Democracy Now!, The Guardian, are you listening? Do you hear what I said? Okay, think about that for a while. I've got to go to my gym and finally get some training in. My body's getting sore. I'm asking God to help me get my body back together so I can dance with joy again. Because I'd like that. I was hurt last year, but I could still move. And I look not too bad, so I would like to be that way again. And healthy and strong for the spring. And able to do what I really want to do, you know. Music, write, travel, be who I really want to be. Not have to talk politics, but it's always an interesting subject when you come from a place behind the granite curtain. Good night from Skookum1, the street professor, at Big Skookum on Twitter. Thank you for listening.